Hello, everyone. This is the GameWisp Episode 5 podcast.
Right on.
I am a post-laryngitis Eli, and with me here, as always, our wonderful boss who signs our paychecks,
Michael Anderson.
Mr. Michael Anderson.
Heyo.
What's up? If you've never seen the GameWisp podcast, what we do here is we pick a theme, we play a game based around that theme, and then we talk about gaming video and gaming in general, also based around that theme. And this week's theme...
It's based on a theme.
This week's theme, Mr. Anderson, is what?
Franchises.
Franchises. That's right. Franchises are all the rage nowadays.
They're so
As if they
ragey.
haven't been since Next Generation happened, which was 3 generations ago.
Yeah. Or since the Super Nintendo even.
That's right. That's
Mario.
right. Mario was the sequel. Yeah, and so, you know, why do franchises happen? We all know this. We're going to talk about it. We're also going to be playing a franchise game, and that is Assassin's Creed Black Flag.
That's right.
Why is it not the newest Assassin's Creed, you ask?
As within all episodes, because that costs money.
We didn't want to pay for it. Yes.
That's
yes.
right.
So...
And also, this one's awesome. That's the other thing.
Awesome.
Is like just look at the visuals that are happening right now. I mean,
that's
we've got
quite a sunrise set
sunsets,
thing.
Sunrise set.
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't know. The bugs in this game are not really existent as opposed to the newest one. And
right.
it's just a lot of fun. So I think it'll be I'm not really going to dive into the story too much.
You're just going to sail around
I'm
and
just
shoot
going to
things with a
sail
cannon.
around and blow up some ships and
Yeah, and
all
so
that.
that's the thing with this podcast. If you came here looking for some good Assassin's Creed Black Flag video, don't watch this because we don't really, you know, it's mainly a background thing so we can talk about what's going on in gaming and gaming video and also what's going on with us here at GameWisp and where we're at in product development, business development, that kind of stuff.
right on.
Exciting things today. We got a pretty crowded office today.
Yeah, absolutely.
We
It's very
don't
exciting.
face cam these podcasts, but we do use a camera on Morning Coffee, which is our daily Twitch stream, and you can kind of see the activity in the background in the office if you watch some of those recently. So of that activity, one of the people here is Greg Rosen. He is our social media guy. So if you've ever tweeted at us, about us, to us, wished we'd stop, then you have Greg Rosen to blame for that. He
That's
also
exactly
writes a majority of our blog posts and mainly handles, all the medias that happen to be social.
That's right.
And so he will be coming in this podcast at some point to weigh in on his ideas on franchises and to talk about franchise games that he has known and loved.
That's right.
Because he's probably known and loved more than me.
Look at that gold chain.
I don't really have time to play big budget franchise games anymore.
One day you might.
One day. I've never played an Assassin's Creed.
Really?
Never played a single one.
That's
I
think that's especially the Assassin's Creed 2 trilogy, Ezio trilogy. It's I don't know. It's one of those things that you should totally experience.
when I was
Then skip 3.
when I was a wee lad
Yeah.
back in freshman or sophomore year of college, I don't remember. When did when did the first one come out?
Jeez.
Like 05?
I mean, it was
06?
definitely Xbox. Oops. It was like
Yeah, it was on the 360.
it was on 360.
Yeah, and I remember like we were so excited about it, right? Because you could climb stuff and jump off things and shank people, whatever it is they do in
Yeah.
the game. And so my roommate bought it like release day and brought it and played it, and we were woefully disappointed because it was like the same 5 things over and over again.
Yeah.
Climb thing, jump off thing, stab guy, find new guy to stab, hide in group of courtiers,
Yeah.
jump off thing,
Yeah.
rinse, repeat. I don't know. It was it didn't do it for me.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm gonna be honest with you, most franchise titles don't do it for me.
Right.
They really don't. There's been a select few that I've stuck through to the end. Are you a franchise fanboy, Mr.
I
Anderson?
love franchises.
Really?
Yeah, and so I think that's, we can talk about that further in this podcast, but I am actually more of a franchise person than I am a individual game person.
Nope. Give me that
So-
flash in the pan. That
Yeah,
one
see,
hit of success.
and
That's what I want to play.
I love, some of these franchises we'll talk about later, but I do my best to play every single one in a franchise. So, just to provide an alternate perspective, I really like the Assassin's Creed 1 game because, and this is kind of dumb, but it was maybe it's not that dumb, but it was a thing where I could create a story myself. If you played it as you kind of could like get into the world a little bit and kind of like turn your mind to like, oh, I'm an assassin. Like I'm going to jump off this and sneak around.
Can't you do that in any game though?
You can, yeah. But I just like the idea of like, and also like the historicity, I don't know, whatever that word is, the history of it.
In that historiocracy, that's a word.
There's some word. Greg, when he gets in here, might know that word. But
he's furiously looking it up in a dictionary right now.
Yeah, and he probably already knows it. He's very,
good at words.
But the thing that I like about it is that you are like on a horse and you're riding between like Damascus and Jerusalem, and they like recreated the cities as they were back then. And I think that's something I love about this franchise, is that they do that sort of like historical recreation.
I mean, it's basically alternate history simulator Creed at this point, right?
Absolutely. And that's for good or worse what it is. And I would imagine I don't know, I just thought that was a really unique take on a franchise. And one of the things I like about the Ezio trilogy I'll go back to, and this is also as a personal experience, is that we were over in Italy
fancy
at some point. I traveled there.
Oh.
And so what was cool was I actually got to climb on all these buildings that I had like visited recently. And so that was...
I just pictured you climbing them in real life.
Yeah.
Like, I saw them in the game and then I climbed them in real life.
Now that would be awesome. But really though, yes. I mean, it was something like that where it's like, oh, you start off, and so in Assassin's Creed 2, you start off on this bridge and you're in a fist fight. And it was a bridge that I had been on like 2 months earlier. And it looks exactly the same.
Also a fist fight you had been in?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Anyone on that bridge in real life has to fight somebody.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
But
the punching bridge.
That really, I think, endeared me to the franchise. Like even that sort of like emotional moment of like, I've been here, I've seen this, and you did a great job of recreating.
Yeah,
it.
I'm impressed with their attention to detail in that regard. I was messing around on Reddit the other day because every day needs an ample time allotted to messing around on Reddit.
Yeah.
And found a thread that showed where some guy had printed off screenshots of Unity, right, of all the famous locations or whatever, and was walking around Paris. It is Paris, right? In Unity, and he was holding them up against the building, so like half the building would be an in-game render, and the other half would be the real-world shot, and it was like identical, like it was perfect.
That's
amazing. Perfectly modeled or whatever. It was pretty cool. I was like, wow, too bad that game's super buggy because those environments are great.
Yeah,
But yeah, interesting. Anyway, we're getting way off topic on Assassin's Creed here. We've got like a bulleted list of stuff to talk about, and we're on another planet right now. So gaming/gaming video news. Here's some exciting gaming video news. South Park is doing an episode about YouTubers/gaming video in general with the coveted, perhaps at this point, PewDiePie cameo.
I think so.
Yeah, and so I think if South Park's riffing on you, with their particular brand of satire, you've officially made it as a whatever you are. Like you're a thing,
You are a thing.
Like there was an Uber episode, that made Uber a thing. It's like, hey, pop culture knows enough about you now that we can make fun of you and satirize you. You're officially a thing.
That's right.
So I guess I'm kind of excited to see. I'm going to watch that episode.
Right?
Yeah, I'm going to check it out. Well, I mean, right, this is what we think about every day, so we have to see what's up in that regard.
How is it portrayed in pop culture? We got to know.
I'm sure it's going to be bad.
Right.
Like, not a bad episode, but portrayed in a very bad light, maybe, a very satirical light.
As one does.
As one does.
Oops, I think I'm about to slam into
As
some
one does.
land here.
So I'll report back with my findings.
Okay, that sounds
good. After I watch that, we'll let you know. Maybe it'll change the entire direction of the company.
It could.
They just won't even do gaming video anymore because since it's on South Park, it's old news.
That's right. That's what we should tell investors. We're completely pivoting because of South Park.
Yeah, it's old news. Everybody knows it exists now. So it's like, what's the point?
Right. Maybe that's good for us, though. You could argue.
One
could argue.
Depends on who watches South Park.
True. That's very, very true.
So that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So I don't know, like by the time you hear this podcast, that will have aired. So go watch it on Hulu or something.
That's right.
I guess, or whatever it is you kids do nowadays.
That's right.
With your videos.
We don't know.
Internets.
It's like.
Yeah. Other news. The PlayStation. Guess how old the PlayStation is.
I would guess.
Don't cheat. Don't look at the notes, cheater.
25 years old.
Really?
I don't know. No.
Because it would have come out when you were 3.
That's right. Let me think. Okay, I heard about it. 18 years old. I don't know.
No, you're wrong.
No.
You're so wrong.
God. I'm always so wrong.
It's 20 years old.
Oh, wow.
2 decades.
That's crazy.
A score. There's officially a score.
One score.
Yeah. 1 score ago, the PlayStation was a thing.
Yeah. That's cool.
And since
Did you own one of those?
My older brother did.
Nice.
And I would buy games on the sneak and play them when he wasn't there.
Yes.
Yeah. And that introduced me to one of the franchises I do actually play pretty religiously, which is Metal Gear Solid. And,
I love that series.
Just in general, like the PlayStation is the console that launched 1,000 franchises.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
Fair.
It launched a ton. You've got the Metal Gear series, which you could argue was launched on, it was on Nintendo, whatever.
Yeah.
But like the Metal Gear Solid series, like that's, for lack of a better term, solidified Metal Gear's presence as like a big franchise game. Snake's Revenge didn't do it, folks. I'm sorry. We can debate that as much as you want, but it was not Snake's Revenge. That cemented Metal Gear Solid's status.
Right.
Or Metal Gear status, I guess. Anyway, so yeah, I played the original Metal Gear Solid on that PS1, and then just followed it all the way along, and actually bought most frivolous purchase I ever had.
Tell me
was the PlayStation 3 that I purchased just so I could play Metal Gear Solid 4.
Fair enough.
Had to play it.
You got to.
I convinced my wife that it was a thing we needed to do so we could play Little Big Planet together.
Right.
But instead, I just played Metal Gear Solid 4 all the time.
Did you play Little Big Planet ever?
I did, yeah. We played Little Big Planet.
There
It was
you
all
go.
right. Yeah, it was all right. Well, I wish we'd played it more.
Yeah.
I do. It was a fun little game. But it was mainly, for me, it was for Metal Gear Solid 4. And the new one's coming out. I want to play it, but it's like maybe it'll be on PC. Then I won't have to buy a console. I just can't buy a console anymore.
Yeah.
I can't do it, Mike.
You're not going to buy one?
I'm not doing it.
Well,
No.
I love the, this is off topic, but I'm definitely buying me a Xbox One at some point in the future. I don't know when that'll be.
Why?
Dude, we'll go back to franchises. Love Halo. So I'll buy anything that has a Halo on it.
Really?
Yes. But maybe that's another time in this podcast. But I love Halo. I love the storyline. I love the world. I love multiplayer. I think that
how many sequels does it take until it's just beaten to death? Like not Halo, but a franchise in general. Like, come on, dude. This is like Assassin's Creed 15.
So how many? How many Lord of the Rings movies until you stop enjoying it, or whatever it is?
The second Hobbit movie.
Great. So that's 5,
I put a stamp on it. It was that one.
So and maybe you'll like the 5 armies. Just like it's like Assassin's Creed 3 made me want to fight myself in the face.
Was it bad?
It was like a chore. It was like, but I'm so devoted to the franchise. I want to know the story.
Was that the one in New England or whatever?
Yeah, it was just like, it was just the worst. It was the worst to play. It really was. And it's unfortunate because you had all these, like, it was cool. You were like fighting the American Revolution, and I cared about it more because it was my own country, But
I didn't care about all those other foreign countries.
No, I'm just kidding. I really enjoyed the foreign countries, as I mentioned earlier. But I enjoyed it because it was like George Washington, and I don't know. It was cool that way.
Right.
But anyway, it was just the mechanics were awful. And then the best parts of that game were the ship parts that were just very limited. And then they just decided to make a whole game out of it.
A whole game out of ship parts?
Yeah. And then that made everything better for me. But anyway, I think it's all about, for me, it's the storytelling in the franchise. And you can always draw me back into a franchise if the storytelling is good again. So, case in point.
You don't just give up? You're not one of those. You're not one of those riding internet fanboys. It's like,
No.
I'm never doing this again.
Definitely not.
How dare you spend tens of millions of dollars making a thing that wasn't exactly what I wanted?
Yeah, and something that I really enjoyed. For instance, case in point, the Star Wars trailer that just came out.
I'm so jaded.
Yeah, I know.
We can deviate from game franchises to video franchises temporarily.
Yeah.
But I'm so jaded about the new Star Wars. George Lucas ruined it for me.
Yeah.
It's over. Like, it's crushed.
But
like,
he's not doing this one.
I know, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I don't know if I can get it back. Like, I don't know if I can squee like a child.
JJ's going to get it back for you.
I do love what he's done with Star Trek.
It's true.
Most diehard Trekkies, I don't think, dislike what he did with Star Trek.
Yeah.
But I think it was awesome.
Here's an Assassin's Creed moment for you. This dude's like totally giving up, and
what's he giving? He's surrendering?
He's surrendering.
But you're supposed to kill him.
Right, but he surrendered, so why is Assassin's Creed awesome? Because of this.
You
Don't
monster.
care. You're evil.
You monster. Just shank that guy.
Yeah. Well, that's what you do. But anyway, for me, and that's, I guess, when I get back to the point of this podcast is that I never had a PlayStation. And so the franchises that I love started with Xbox. Well, I mean, a lot of them started with Nintendo, but I've kind of veered off to Xbox ones.
Yeah. Your formative years were on the Xbox.
Yeah, totally. And so I think that's interesting. And
not even Tomb Raider?
I mean, I played it at my friend's house.
Yeah.
I even played it on a PC, I think, at some point.
Tomb Raider was one of the first games I played, if I recall correctly, that had like a save system where you could you write multiple save files or whatever. And maybe I played some before that. This is the only one I can remember. Or the earliest one I can remember. And I remember that I would only overwrite the same save over and over. I'd never make a new save.
Yeah.
And there was one time I was probably 3/4 of the way into the game, and I don't know if you know this, but there's a lot of Easter eggs in I think it was Tomb Raider 2. In Tomb Raider 2, it's like gymnastics-based stuff that Lara Croft can do. Like you can walk to the edge of a ledge and she'll do like a handstand on the ledge, and then handspring off, right?
Nice.
And so I was doing this handstand on a ledge to a pit that was like I would fall and die. So I was messing around, and I saved the game during the handspring.
Oh no!
Yeah, and so whenever I rebooted, she was plummeting into the pit, and so like I lost the entire progress of the game. So anytime I load it, just plummet into pit and die, plummet into pit and die. And
that's
so
awful, man.
To this day, I have not beaten Tomb Raider 2 for that reason. I was like, I quit.
Yeah,
and I learned a valuable lesson that
if
day.
you do that, like that's the worst, man. If you like, lose your save game in the middle, like game's over. That's actually kind of how GameWisp started in the first place. So I lost my Borderlands because of Steam saves was awful.
Yeah,
and I was like, that's it. I'm not starting this game over. It's just
I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm walking away.
It's like 50 hours are just gone, so not doing that again.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I think that's an interesting piece of. I don't know. That sucks about your.
Yeah, it was like 15 years ago. I'm over.
Yeah.
So
are you sure though?
I think it was like 18 years. A long time ago.
Yeah.
Man, I'm getting old.
Aren't we?
Speaking of franchises, so would you call what Telltale's been doing for like forever? Would you call that a franchise, or is that just their shtick? That's just
I think
what
it's
they
like
do.
it's almost like a. I don't have time to board this ship. We're gonna kill it. I think it's a. I don't know. I think it's like a. I don't know. It seems like it's like the new version of what LucasArts was. It's like they're known for this type of game.
Yeah, and maybe it's unfair, but like if you tell me, oh, Telltale's putting out a new game, or I'm playing a Telltale game, I'm immediately going to know what the game, right?
Yeah,
it's
what your experience
story driven with somewhat branching story paths with actions that have consequences that somewhat impact the outcome of the story. Right? Done.
That's exactly
okay.
right.
Telltale game, and where they get interesting is they just get to use all this incredible IP and do stuff in universes that the regular creators of those universes may not be adventurous enough to do or have the time to do.
Yeah,
this is really interesting. Did you play The Walking Dead? Oh man, wow.
They're pretty awesome.
Oh yeah, it's great. It's great because they don't have to do anything.
Yeah,
like they don't have to keep anybody alive. I think there's a cameo from Glenn. If you watch the Walking Dead movie, like the series or read comic books, it's like there's a cameo from Glenn in the first episode or whatever, and then it's like it's no holds barred, man.
That's
like
awesome.
We're gonna kill anybody and everybody, and we're just gonna do it. And
fantastic.
I don't know. I think it's really interesting. Like they'll sacrifice nothing to tell a good story. And I think that's why Telltale's interesting. And so maybe it's not a franchise, but there's definitely like there's a shtick there.
Yeah.
There's like a very focused. This is the way we do things at Telltale.
Yeah.
And maybe it'll always be that way. Maybe they'll get adventurous. I don't know. I mean,
adventurous.
Wolf Among Us. Yeah. Wolf Among Us. That was really good. Did you play that one?
I'm going to be honest with you right now. I've played 0 Telltale games.
Oh my gosh, they're like 3 hours long.
I know. I've watched Let's Plays of them.
Yeah,
but I haven't
actually a really good candidate for Let's Plays.
Yeah,
because things you do aren't just dramatically different, and the pacing's about right that you can sit down and watch them in a Let's Play. It's pretty good.
It is very nice.
Wolf Among Us was great. It was a bit more. I mean, it was based on a more esoteric comic book. It was a little more out there.
Yeah.
And so they had some really neat stuff going on there. But the newest Telltale release, Episode 1 of the Game of Thrones.
Yeah. This may be the point in time where I actually start start doing my Telltale games.
Here's a little trick with Telltale games.
Yeah.
They are always dirt cheap on Steam sales. Always just dirt cheap, like so cheap.
Yeah.
So you can pick them up for like $4 or whatever.
Awesome.
The Game of Thrones one, I reserved judgment for. I was like, I don't know, because there have been some attempts at Game of Thrones games, and they've kind of sucked. Is this like a Mayan temple? Where are you right now?
Yeah, so, I mean, you're in the Caribbean, so this is just like a Mayan ruin.
Would that be
found.
down there?
I think so, maybe. It's part of this game series.
Is this like coastal central Mexico? Like where?
Yeah, let me see where we're at. So this is, it's history here, so you can,
Whoa.
so they're on...
What is this orientation? I don't even know what I'm looking at.
This
now.
is Jamaica, I think, up here, or this is Cuba.
Was there a Mayan presence where you're currently standing?
I have no idea.
I don't know if that's true.
I don't know. They were like right here, so theoretically they could have gotten over here. Part of this is like, they co-opt old history and sort of shoehorn in like the fact that they're like an ancient civilization powered by aliens somehow. Like all these different things, but
yeah.
But still. This is, I don't know. I don't want to derail our Telltale. We can talk about franchises.
Telling tales of Telltale.
Right.
See what I did there?
You did it.
Yeah.
But I think this is kind of the fun thing about this particular franchise is that you just can like discover. That's cool about this particular one.
Sure.
Where it's just like, oh, we're gonna find a Mayan village. There's probably stuff here. Anyway, but Telltale, you're excited about the Game of Thrones? I mean, at least enough to like.
Yeah, I read Rock Paper Shotgun's initial review, and they're optimistic.
That's
right?
cool.
They're optimistic, and it seems like it the biggest failing they've said is it tends to make the characters from the Forrester house.
Yeah.
I won't say it's a made up house, but the Minor house
Mm-hmm.
that the game centers around are like very obviously analogs to the Starks.
Yeah.
Right? Like there's obviously a Jon Snow. There's
Yeah.
or whatever. I haven't played it, I don't know. But that's kind of the takeaway I got from the review. I refuse to watch Let's Plays for Telltale games because I know someday I'm going to play them.
Right.
I watched the first episode of Wolf Among Us just to kind of see, because I know anything about that universe. I was like, I'll watch this and see if it's any good. But if I know the universe, especially with like Walking Dead or Game of Thrones, like I'm going to play that. However, I'm going to wait until all the episodes are out. I can't do it. I can't, like the cliffhangeriness of all Telltale episodes is just enormous.
Yeah.
I'm like, I can't do it. I can't play 2 hours of an episode and then wait 6 months or whatever and like get the new one and then pick it up. It would kill me.
Right.
So I'm just going to wait till they're all out.
That's fair.
Unless I know until then, the better. And I've managed not to get games spoilered. Telltale games spoilered.
That's awesome.
Spoiled.
Yeah, spoiled.
That way.
Spoilt.
So far it's working out for me.
That's awesome.
There's a huge bird in the background of that image there.
It's true. It's some sort of eagle.
What a conveniently placed home of palm fronds.
There's so many of those.
Assassin's Creed.
I know.
Okay, so that is our talk of gaming video, episodic content, and as I mentioned earlier, Greg Rosen is here with us, and so we've got a big old bullet point called franchises if we haven't talked about them enough.
Right.
And Greg is going to come lend some gaming video knowledge to us about franchises and tell us maybe what to watch or how to watch it, or maybe just talk about the games you played as a kid. I don't know.
That's right.
No holds barred here.
And I'm going to talk about some Halo
in GameWisp land. So I'm gonna let him in. Let him in.
Bring it. Welcome to the podcast, Greg. It's good to have you join us.
Good to be here.
Yeah. Welcome to town and etc.
It's an exciting time and place.
That's right. So today in the podcast, we're going to talk through a few franchises. So I'd love to hear, like Eli mentioned just now, we got a few here that we want to talk about in our show notes, but also just want to hear a little bit about, what you love or hate about franchises.
Sure.
So why don't you start with that?
Well, I'm one of those guys who probably grew up more on franchise games than your independent or small one-off successful games.
Right.
Assassin's Creed was one of my favorites when it first started.
Yeah.
What was that, like 2007, 2008?
Yeah.
Just because its story was so amazing. And then when they kept iterating, they kept the story going for a few games. And now that they've gotten so heavy into the iteration and the story has sort of faded away, I've lost a lot of interest. And that generally is how I feel about most franchises. When they take the time to continue the story, to keep it fresh and not just make a game so that people will buy it.
Right.
I'm always on board. But when you have something that's basically doing what Madden does every year, where slight alterations, basically rushing a game out as fast as you can with as little work as possible, ignoring the reasons why it was good in the first place.
Right.
I tend to get a little miffed.
Mm-hmm.
But Mass Effect, big part of my life all the way through.
Yeah.
Introduced me to the Xbox, made me an Xbox guy when I was a PlayStation guy before that.
Right.
Earlier, Metal Gear Solid came up. Absolutely a big part of my life. I love Metal Gear Solid, even as it went increasingly insane as time went on.
It really is, it just got more and more insane. I don't know how that happened, but it did.
But it's a good example of them doing weird things with it lately. That was always a console game.
Yeah.
Metal Gear Solid was for PlayStation, and then when they branched it around, it was to other consoles.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden, in the last few years, they start releasing portable games that are not just part of the franchise, but seminal fiction.
Right.
In order to keep appraised of what's going on. And I don't play mobile games. I mean, it's just not something I do. And
right.
So I just ignored those games, and now Metal Gear Solid 5 is coming, or I think the Solid is still attached. Metal Gear Solid 5 comes out soon. And I don't know if I'm going to get it.
Right.
Because I don't know if I'm going to know what's going on. It doesn't help that series jumps around from time frame.
Yeah, there's different time, I don't know what you want to say, but different time periods, and it goes back and forward and all this kind of stuff. So, yeah, that's hard when everything. I guess that's the part of the franchise. The downside of franchises is when they start going out of the. Out of the main vein of what they're doing, so it's like these mobile games or a book or something that really they don't then do a good job of re-explaining why it's important in the main entries in the series. That can be a huge problem for people that don't necessarily want to buy every mobile game and buy every instance of the series.
And I mean, I understand needing to keep an IP profitable long enough so that you can get to the games you want to make.
Yeah.
It's hard to make games. I mean, every day there's a new studio shutting down, more problems for developers. It's just a tough thing to do. So I know that when you have an IP that's very popular and you can iterate, I understand that you have to do something with it. But it often feels like a cash grab. It often feels like they're ignoring the people who made the games popular in the first place.
Yeah.
It can be very frustrating.
Totally. I think that one of the big things that we can jump back to Assassin's Creed here in a second, but I would say that Halo does really well, just since we brought that up earlier, is that they actually spend a lot of time making the core games, the fiction that happens in the core games, the Master Chief sort of core storyline. There's books and other things that sort of inform that storyline, but they do a good job of, introducing those type of fictions so that they are available to people that want to engage with them, without sort of making them, or at least without not re-going over them, if that makes sense. In the main games, they cover the important facts that maybe were introduced in those books, and so the cool part of the fiction is that maybe it. I don't know. It adds to your experience if you have read those, but it doesn't detract if you haven't.
Right.
And I think that's important.
I mean, I think some of it is also just I've grown up, so there are some things that I used to love that maybe they haven't changed as much as I think they have. I'm the one who's changed.
Yeah.
What springs to mind is Final Fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
When I was younger, I played every one of those games. I think except 8. I think universally everybody agrees 8 is terrible. So I had no problem skipping that.
When you come off 7. The next one's going to be bad.
Although 9 is my absolute favorite.
That's cool.
But I'm trying to remember the last one that I tried to play was probably 13.
Uh-huh.
And it was just complete garbage. Just a surprisingly large piece of garbage. And I think it was because they dropped all the things that made it good in the first place. But it was a very popular game. I mean, I think it spawned 2 direct sequels, which is not something that happens a lot with Final Fantasy.
Yeah, totally.
But I don't understand. It's
yeah.
And those are like dropping 80 to 100 hours into those games each when I was 10, 12, 13 years old.
Yeah.
I mean, those are fantastic memories.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess, do you feel like this is a little off topic, but not really, in that, we have maybe less time to do this stuff than we used to?
Yeah.
I don't know if that affects
getting
engagement
old,
with
being adults.
Right. And that,
and whatnot.
I think that affects our ability to engage with franchises. Like it's hard to like I just don't have time to get Assassin's Creed to 100% completion. Like, I'm just not going to be able to do it. Or Skyrim or something like that. Wherein I feel like when I was younger, I would just do that with any game. I'd just get everything, collect everything. And
see, I'm starting to feel like franchises are really the only things that I play anymore.
That's fair.
Except for the things that, become phenomenon like Destiny.
Yeah.
Because I don't have as much time to learn about the smaller games that don't have that build up to them.
Right. And I think also too, like, the other thing that I enjoy about franchises is that there's no I don't have to like learn the characters again, or I don't have to learn the world again. I can just get in and start playing. So that's I think that's kind of a cool piece of franchises.
Right, it's the same thing as with movies. Like the origin story is bogged down by having all that responsibility of explaining everything.
Right.
And then once it's done, the sequel is the best one.
Yeah.
Because they get to ignore all that stuff and just tell a story with these characters.
Right. And the characters that everybody knows or loves or whatever. Mm-hmm. So let me see what this dude is all about. Start a mission.
Yeah, I never did any of this in this game.
Oh, really?
Like, I raced through it.
Yeah.
This jungle is still thick with vines and trickery.
So, talk to me about Assassin's Creed. How have you engaged with this franchise?
Well, like I said, loved it at the beginning. I remember seeing a commercial for the very first game during an award show.
Yeah.
It was a big reveal, and my roommate at the time running into my room and going, "We're going to buy that, right?"
Yeah.
Because it was just so impressive. The amount of detail that went into mapping out the way ancient Jerusalem and Anchor and all of that looked. My experience with it has been one of gradually increasing disappointment. Because the thing that I loved so much about it was the fiction.
Yeah.
And that's the stuff that has become totally ignored as the games go on.
Yeah.
The actual conflict between assassins and Templars, the conspiracy theories, all of that great historical stuff is completely ignored by the third game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know why I just lit that up, by the way.
I think you're about to, time out.
I'm not sure why I did that.
So, I mean,
anyway.
when we got to the third one with Connor, I remember playing that whole game and not being upset. Like, I enjoyed it enough.
Yeah.
And then getting to the end and wondering where the rest of the story was.
Yeah.
Desmond's story ends in the most anticlimactic way imaginable.
You're right.
And the story itself in Revolutionary America has no payoff at all.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it doesn't at all. It's just sort of like, well, everyone's dead, and I don't know. We're gonna, this is spoiler alert. Ready? Pause it or fast forward or whatever. But killed your dad. You're mad the whole time. He wasn't like a likable character. Like Ezio was like really likable, which didn't have that much like sympathy for whatever his name was.
I just think it was the start of them becoming a yearly feature.
Yeah.
Regardless of whether they had a story to tell. It's all about showing off a new locale. Black Flag is really the counterexample to that, but it feels like an accident.
Yeah.
They noticed people really liked the sailing mechanics in the third game.
Right.
It was their favorite part. They said, let's just make a whole game out of that. It was so successful that they made Rogue again when they didn't need to.
Yeah.
Probably from all those leftover pieces of game.
Yeah.
Because it introduced something new.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the storyline was not bad. I think that the actual in-history storyline of Black Flag is one of their best. The characters in there are pretty well fleshed out. There's a good arc to it.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
None of it matters. This is supposed to be a series with wide-reaching implications for all of history, all the way back to in the first game, there's a Adam and Eve reveal. I mean, for God's sake, that is back to the beginning.
Right.
All that stuff fell away.
Yeah.
It became irrelevant whether you were a Templar or an assassin.
Yeah.
To the point where they're switching them off. Different games. Make the bad guys good guys. Make the good guys bad guys.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't feel like any of it matters anymore. And it's been very disappointing for me. I'm going to keep buying them. I mean, it's the way it is. I love exploring these cities, preferably when they work.
Right. That's
I'm not going to get Unity until I know it works.
Right.
It
works now, but it's like, are we sure that it works? And that's the trick. I think with Assassin's Creed, and this is why I think I would be I would love Rogue. We talked about that earlier, but the just the idea of, I don't know, the ship sailing is amazing. The environment is great. The exploration, I think that's my favorite thing about this series. I love I thought this alien storyline was really good and all that and important. But once that sort of fell away, the thing that kept me coming back was the exploration and just kind of like this emergent conflict that, we just did not, you couldn't get anywhere else.
They're gorgeous games.
Yeah.
I mean, look at them.
Yeah.
They're just fantastic looking games.
Right.
And they tend to play well, although, I mean, the mechanics of actually fighting get a little repetitive.
Yeah.
But there's a lot to like about them.
Yeah.
The reason why I keep coming back to franchises is because I like characters.
Yeah.
And because I like worlds.
Right.
And I've never played a franchise that was less interested in its own characters and its own world than Assassin's Creed. It's amazing to me that they could care so little.
I know, right?
Wow.
It's pretty crazy. Hang on 1 second. We're dropping frame rate like crazy on this video. So I'm going to change the graphics real quick. I know. All right, we're back at recording at like 30 frames per second, so yeah. Right.
Right, and I've been so disinterested in Black Flag because it's not on the current generation of systems.
Yeah.
I mean,
you got a PS4 right now?
I do have a PS4, yes.
Yeah.
I'm.
It's on Xbox One. Oh yeah, Black Flag is. Oh, desynchronized. What the heck am I doing? Yeah. Do you have an Xbox One?
I do not.
Ah, well there you go.
Someday, probably.
Maybe. Yeah, I should play.
Because I can't get through life without talking to my game console and having it recognize
That's
me,
right.
like a close friend or a
And
pet.
I guess that's a great segue into why franchises are awesome. And the first time I ever played Halo was at a friend's house at a LAN party for his birthday. I still play Halo with that particular guy now. And so to me, I think franchises are one of those things that break the barriers of different periods of your life. And if I think God, I am bad at this right now. As as something that you do with friends, it's actually like something that can be a really compelling bridge from one period of your life to the next. And I think that's what's cool about franchises. Like, I still play all the new Halo games with my buddies. In fact, Jesse, our producer, is one of the guys I still play with. And I think that's like a really neat thing that franchises can do.
I think that all just kind of depends on how social a gamer you are.
That is also true.
Whether or not you play those particular franchises that cater to that.
Yeah, that's very true.
I've just never been much of a multiplayer guy. Not since really GoldenEye.
Yeah.
Have I been sitting down to play with other people.
Right.
So the franchises that I've always loved have been, like Dark Room, late at night, you've been playing for hours.
Yeah.
And like fighting against the final boss of Final Fantasy IX for a week before being able to finish it. Those are all my franchise memories. Finishing Mass Effect 3 and then going online and going, does everybody else hate the ending as much as I do? Yes, they do.
Yeah.
And then watching them all lose their minds, which was a whole lot of fun.
It was awesome.
So it's things like that. I mean, all my memories of franchises are actually kind of solitary memories, and that's fine.
Yeah.
If you're that kind of gamer, you can sort of markate these moments in your life by different franchises, which I like a lot too.
Yeah.
Final Fantasy is a part of my childhood and not a part of my adulthood. But I fondly remember them still,
Right. Yeah, it's funny. I was looking through this list of things that we have, which is the franchises we have, and a lot of them, for me, just as the kind of gamer I am, it's been the social aspect that has been a really big draw to like coming back to franchises. So you mentioned Mass Effect. You know, I've played a lot of Mass Effect 3 with some of the same guys that play on Xbox Live. All right, I got.
Well, and when it's a multiplayer franchise, every time there's a new game, it restarts that whole relationship.
Yeah, which is like, you know, Halo Master Chief Collection. Another thing, I haven't played it yet. I don't have an Xbox One, but you know, once I do that, if I do that,
it sounds like the people who bought it didn't play it for a little while either.
Yeah, I know, right? Haha. But the Zinger
Development Slam.
Yeah, but that's that same thing. And not only do I get to revisit the new Halo 4 again on a nicer console or whatever, but you also get to revisit Halo 1 in a way that you never have before, which is online multiplayer. So,
God, I have to say, looking at the new cinematics that they had Blur Studios make for Halo 2, they're incredible.
They are really cool.
Blur Studios is amazing. If anybody doesn't know who they are, they've made all of your favorite cutscenes. Go to their website now and watch them again. Yeah. All the cinematics from the Star Wars Old Republic campaign that you remember fondly, that was all Blur. And so they did all the new cinematics for Halo 2 in the Master Chief Collection. Totally redid them, new voice acting. Yeah. And it's like watching a movie. It's incredible.
Yeah, that's so cool. And that's, you know, maybe that's the power of franchises too, that they can go back and revisit that. Whether you think that that's like a cash grab.
I'm of two minds.
Yeah, aren't we all?
I mean, it depends what they do to it. I mean, everybody seems to acknowledge that the re-release of Grand Theft Auto 5 was worth it. Like, they put a whole bunch of time into new features, new content, and so it actually convinces people who've already paid $60 for this game to do it again. But I didn't rebuy. I didn't rebuy The Last of Us. The Last of Us is a story-driven game. I finished the story. I don't want to do it again just because it looks nicer. Yeah. And I mean, I understand making it because that game was sort of on the cusp of the PlayStation 3's lifespan. Right. And so a lot of people, if they haven't played it yet, they would prefer to play it on their new system. Right. But in general, when you re-release old content without putting a lot into it, I tend to look at it pretty negatively. Yeah. Master Chief Collection is nice because it's so many games in one. Yeah. And you can all just like jump around. That's one of the things I'm excited about is like, it's like play all the vehicle campaign levels, you know, and it just like, it makes a playlist of missions. And it's the same thing as franchises. So you got to put the time into it. If they put effort into it, if they really believe in the product, it'll end up being worth it. Right. The issue is that a lot of the times that's not the reason the game is being made. It's because the franchise exists, and that means it needs to make more money this year. That's right. That is exactly right. It's the maddening of video games. Which no one wants. No one wants it all. I'm a jilted Madden fan. I refuse to be hurt again. I can get that. From your reaction about Madden. Well, so it's just so easy to pile on Electronic Arts, you know. Right. Got to be cool. That's right. That's what all the cool kids do. That's right. Exactly right. So, what new franchises are you excited about? Well, anything? You know, I would say that you can't tell when something's going to be a franchise, but you really can, can't you? I'm looking forward to Destiny 2. I enjoyed the first one enough. We're going to be getting expansions that I won't buy over the next few months. Yeah. But I look forward to seeing that. I want to see the new iteration of Mass Effect. I want to know what Mass Effect 4 is going to be. Yeah. I'm expecting something very different. Yeah. And a return to a universe, but not a return to characters, which is what I like. Yeah. They finished the arc well, even though a lot of people didn't like the ending. Yeah. So I'm fine with just getting into that universe again with new characters, new locales. So that's something I'm looking forward to, but not really a new franchise. Right. No Man's Sky is a new game I want to play. Yeah. But it's hard to know whether something's going to really blow up into something that has, like, you know, it's not just a game, it's an IP now. Yeah. So I don't really know. There's a lot of games I'm looking forward to. Yeah. Hard to say which ones are going to make it. Yeah. What's your take on No Man's Sky? Just because we're there. God, I hope they live up to the promise. Yeah. It has the sound of lies. It's impossible to It's really hard to believe what they're promising, but if they fulfill those promises, it's going to be an amazing game.
Yeah.
The idea that you can make a procedurally generated universe that is literally realistic in size.
Yeah.
Billions of planets. Each time you find a new planet, you're probably the first one who's there.
Yeah.
All that sounds amazing. I disbelieve their ability to deliver. And the fact that we haven't seen any gameplay is disconcerting.
Right.
But we're supposed to get some on Friday. That's
good.
what they say.
Yeah, I think, I don't know. It's funny that, you know, in a world where there's a lot of franchises, they still try and make more, you know? Like, I think that's another point. You know, No Man's Sky may not turn into a franchise because it's just like an unending game.
It probably won't. It's a relatively small studio.
Yeah, but it's like, and you know that franchises usually are going to come from a big studio, right?
Right.
So it depends on how you feel about big studio games. But I guess at the same time, like we were saying earlier, is Telltale's, Telltale is like is it a franchise? Is it not a franchise? Like
I don't think I would ever describe the Telltale games as a franchise. I mean, each one of those games is part of another franchise.
Right.
I love what they do. I always find it hard to buy them until they're done. Like I don't buy them episodically.
Yeah.
Because I can't wait. Particularly with the Walking Dead games. I still haven't played the second season because I know it's going to make me so sad.
Yeah.
But my favorite games are the ones that make me sad. That's why I like BioShock Infinite so much.
Yeah.
Last of Us so much. I like to experience this medium the way I experience other mediums, which is emotionally.
Yeah.
And it doesn't happen all the time.
Right.
So when it does, I'm very impressed.
Yeah. And I think I'll go back to Halo just as my focal point a lot of times. But, that game is something where, and I guess this is what happens with franchises too, is if you end up caring about characters that keep coming back, then, and it's funny how you end up caring about certain characters. Like you care about sort of like a faceless cyborg in Halo, but you care about the relationship between him and Cortana. That's like and that's what they did in Halo 4 was like focus completely on that. Well, and in Halo 3 too. And
I find it interesting that that's the franchise that you go to to describe what you think of as good storytelling. Like you like the storytelling of that franchise because as an outsider, I haven't played a lot of Halo. I mean, like everybody else, I played a little bit of multiplayer, got thrashed thoroughly, and then gave up.
But
from the outside looking in, it looks like pure generic sci-fi. Space Marines, rings in space.
Yeah.
So it's always interesting to me that people single that one out as not just an example of a good game, but of good storytelling.
Yeah.
Just because I wouldn't have thought.
Right, from the outset. And I think that, and maybe it's because it's Bungie, and Bungie just they're just great. I think that's reasonably true. I mean, you mentioned Destiny earlier.
Mm-hmm.
They do a great job of making great games. And so...
Well, but Destiny, another example, not great fiction.
Yeah.
I mean, the biggest complaint about that game is that there's little to no story, and what is there, you have to sort of get yourself.
Yeah. And, that's interesting.
But it doesn't make it an unsuccessful game. It's a wildly successful game.
Right. It's a great shooter.
And
it's a great shooter.
And it's gotten me playing what is essentially an MMO, which is not my bag.
Not your bag.
Because, it's the slow takeover of multiplayer for all gaming.
Yeah.
You can't escape it. You play... I don't know if you played Watch Dogs.
I did not.
Watch Dogs has a little bit of co-op where people can start hacking you.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's not. It's horrible.
Is it supposed to be kind of like how, I don't know, in something like, is it Dark Souls where you can you just sort of get into other people's games, sort of?
It kind of is, but it's deliberately antagonistic.
Yeah.
You don't have to tell people the wrong things in Dark Souls.
Yeah.
But in Watch Dogs, it was always competitive. There's no cooperating. You're competing against somebody who you have to find. It's basically a game of hide and seek.
Yeah.
That just pops up in the middle of your story.
Oh,
and you can't necessarily prevent all of them from happening.
That's the worst.
So you're driving to a mission in the game, and all of a sudden it stops dead because Halo Fan 27 is hacking your phone, and you need to find him.
That's awful.
And that stuff is slowly seeping into every avenue of single-player game to the point
Yeah.
where I feel like they're leaving people like me
and
behind.
I'll tell you, this is another franchise, but Dead Island. I don't know if you've ever played any of those games.
Tried the first one, got a little bit through it before I gave up.
Yeah, the first one, I had to go deep into the menu to turn off some sort of like cooperative thing, and I was just like, why are people all of a sudden popping up in my world? This is really annoying. Taking the stuff that I am trying to collect, and that kind of stuff is like, I just want to play it by myself. You know, it's a zombie apocalypse.
It's what's hip. It's what makes money these days. Is cooperative and online play.
Yeah,
regardless of whether it fits the game.
Yeah, for sure. So, anyway, it's
It really sounds like I don't like games very much. I really do. I'm a big fan of games.
Yeah.
I just gripe a lot.
That's fair.
I'm a whiner.
Well, it's about, I think it's a medium we love, and so we want it to be
Exactly.
We want it to be great.
Right.
You know, and want the games to be great, and especially with franchises, I think that's a big letdown when the franchise fails at a, like for instance, let's see, like we'll just go back to Assassin's Creed, where I haven't gotten Unity yet. I probably will play it at some point, but it's one of those things where you go, all right, I am disappointed because I like this franchise so much, and this, or the Mass Effect 3 ending. You're like, man, this built up so much, I love these characters, and it just didn't pan out the way I had hoped, the way it had in my mind, And
it's always for different
that's
reasons.
sad.
Sometimes they try and reinvent the wheel,
Yeah.
and other times they don't try and change it all. And both
Yeah.
can be horrible. I mean,
Right.
you look at, if you can get as basic as possible, two competing franchises from the beginning, Mario and Sonic.
Yeah.
You cannot name two more different lifespans for a franchise than those two.
Yeah.
Mario is always successful, universally, because while they do innovation, they realize that the nuts and bolts of what makes Mario good is good platforming.
Right.
You don't have to screw with it too much.
Yeah.
Sometimes they go outside the box. Mario RPG is a great game.
Yeah.
Paper Mario, an extension of that franchise, great game.
But it's not a core part of the,
Right. It's more of an offshoot.
Yeah.
Then you look at something like Sonic, and of course, Sega doesn't have a system anymore.
Yeah.
So just not being as much of a mascot has an impact on it. But they change what he is
Yeah.
and what those games are every time.
Yeah.
Because they feel like it's not cool.
Yeah.
Like you can tell. They don't think their own product is cool. They have to change it every time.
Yeah.
To the point where this game that just came out last week, I think it was called Rise of Lyric.
Yeah.
I've never seen a more universally panned game from
Rise
such
of Lyric?
Rise of Lyric. If you didn't know, there was a Sonic game that came out last week that nobody likes.
No idea.
With a villain that, of course, isn't Robotnik, because why would you use your most widely known villain?
No idea.
That is just a snake called Lyric that does not like you.
Great.
They made it super cool by taking all the characters and making them wrap their hands in tape.
Yes.
And playing like Tomb Raider a little bit.
As you do.
As Sonic should be.
Yeah.
The game about speed, all the speed.
Well, and that's where like the most successful Sonic games are the ones that like go back to what it was originally.
Right, but my point is that Mario barely changes.
Yeah. And when he does change, they like keep the mechanic usually.
Right. Maybe it's just because Nintendo's still around and Mario is Nintendo, Nintendo is Mario.
Yeah.
Granted, things like Smash Brothers, Mario Kart, they're not
the
new ideas anymore, but they were when they came out.
Right. And that's the cool thing about, I think, I'm kind of like going against my own thing, which is like, franchises have a lot of the same, or they don't mess with it enough. But you think about, if you have cachet when you have a franchise that you can try new things.
Yeah.
So like when you try new things and they're awful, like you get panned for it because you're like, why didn't you do the same thing? But when you try something new with your franchise and it just kills everybody, for instance, Super Mario 64, like, that was like the first really successful 3D platformer. And
It's true.
They were able to draw people in to try a new experience because it was Mario.
Well, and they had faith in their characters still.
Yeah.
It didn't change very much even though the gameplay changed. It was
Yeah.
still platforming. It
Yeah.
was still based around Goombas and ghosts that
Yeah.
only follow you when you're not looking at them.
Well,
None of that stuff changed.
Exactly, because you have an anchor to sort of like try something new around.
You have to have faith in what made the franchise popular in the first place.
Right. That's exactly right. So, cool. Well, that was a great discussion on franchises.
This was fun.
I guess we're going to share a little bit about what's going on with GameWisp right now.
Yeah, I'm gonna pass it back off.
You're gonna pass it back to Eli.
Eli.
And we'll thank you for joining us on this podcast.
Yeah.
It was awesome to have you, Craig.
Good times.
Yeah, absolutely. So
I'll see everybody soon.
Talk to you soon. Yeah, right. Welcome back, Eli. Glad you could join us again.
I like to sit back silently while you and Greg just rail at each other about franchises.
Yeah, did you enjoy that?
It's great. It was great.
Good.
What's going on here? Pirate ship fight.
That's right.
Awesome.
So
that's kind of like what we're up to at GameWisp.
That's
so
right.
Just a pirate ship fight.
Right.
It's
and
like,
I don't know if you're familiar with this mechanic. It's one of the things that drew me in about this game was that like you go and you actually bombard the ship with cannons until it's like disabled, like you broke the mast off or whatever.
Right.
And then you actually in real time without a loading screen have to go board the ship and take it over in some manner, whether it's kill a certain amount of their people or something like that. And then, oops, I won't climb the wrong mast here. There's some fun Assassin's Creed control problems we're having right now. Anyway, and then so you just like you swing over to the other ship, which is really cool.
Yeah, classic pirate style bombardment.
Yeah.
Right?
But it's, I just thought it was really cool when it started. So. Anyway,
That's-
regardless,
That's piracy.
just like GameWisp, where we have classic pirate ship bombardment.
We do.
It's a
You
part of
and I
our-
had a pirate ship duel just the other day.
That's right. Oh.
So what are we doing? What's up to? What are we gonna have a product ever?
Yeah, we are. In fact, very, very soon. In fact, we're so close. We keep saying this on Morning Coffee, but we're like days away from getting this out the door. We're supposed to have
minutes away.
Really
Just
moments.
a collection of minutes.
A collection of minutes
Yeah.
of some collection size. It's awful. But yeah, so we're working on a few things specifically. One is how we manage your series and moving it from GameWisp to YouTube. That's a big piece of what we're doing right
We've been
now.
working on a while, right? It should be coming together. At this
It's
point.
really awesome. It's really good. I mean, you're working on the scheduling of episode releases.
Yeah, I got sidetracked for a couple of days. One, the holiday kind of slowed us down
Yeah.
for about 2 or 3 days. Because if you don't take holidays, you just want to hate yourself forever.
Yep.
And so that put us behind. We came back. I had to do some work with our build and development pipeline, just for the purposes of onboarding new people, because that needed to happen. And
Right.
it was, that took about a day. It was kind of rough. Like you set up a process and you write a bunch of code, and then that process isn't as good anymore. So you got to go back and revisit that. And if you don't revisit that every few months, you're just gonna mess on your hands.
Right.
So it was the time. So that got done. It was a good way to kind of ease us back into development, I think. After the holiday. And so we did that. And then I took a little time to revisit the scheduling stuff. So dates and times. That's almost done. It's getting there. Yeah,
That's awesome.
I've mentioned it before. Time is just weird.
Yeah.
Time is weird in code, and like, if a creator says, I want this episode to, by default, this series will premiere a new episode every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Right?
Yeah.
So we have the functionality to do that, and it works, and it's fine. So you can queue up, you can make 15 episodes, and then by default, if you set it up this way, a new one will debut every Wednesday for the next 15 weeks at 7 p.m. The problem is that 7 p.m. creator's time zone, your time zone?
Right.
Is it like if it's 7 p.m. for everybody, then when you debut a new episode, your buddies in New York will see it before your friends in California?
Yeah.
And it could be all spoilery, and maybe that doesn't matter most of the time, but maybe it does, depending on kind of how you release things, what kind of content you have, if you don't want it being spoiled or spoiled. Why I've not said that right this entire spoiled, whatever, and so if you want all your fans to experience that content at the same time, and like that's just something we got to think about, how do we handle all those offsets and stuff, and it's just fun little wrinkles on top of this problem, because time in code is always weird.
It really is.
Yeah, it's just weird, and so nothing's got it quite right yet. I don't care what you say or what your argument is, you're wrong. Nothing's done it right yet.
That's right.
So anyway, that's where that's at. It'll be done, I don't know, a day or two. We, from a development standpoint, brought in a new contractor who's currently working furiously behind me. It's great.
That's right.
So she's working on some chat stuff, and it's actually coming along pretty interestingly. I'm happy with it. It always amazes me, like, when we bring on people, how I don't know if we've just gotten really lucky, or if just I underestimate the abilities of everyone, myself included.
Yeah.
But it seems like progress is going along faster than I anticipated.
That's awesome.
So that's great. And same with Dave. Like Dave, our other contractor came in and like covered more ground in 2 days than I anticipated somebody new to our code base to cover in 2 weeks. So,
right.
People are great. They're awesome. So things are going nicely. That's where that's at.
That's really good. Well, yeah, we're once again planning on getting this out the door this week to our small set of content creators that are going to be helping test this for us. And so
it could be you.
It could be you.
Or you.
Or
I'm just pointing right now.
There's so many people listening to this podcast right now. The multitudes of people that it could be.
Legions of people.
That's right. And so we'd love, if you are a content creator and you want to check out what we're up to, we'd love to show you and get you into the GameWisp ecosystem. So give us an email at info@gamewisp.com if you want to test what we're up to.
Yes, that's info@gamewisp.com.
That's exactly right. And then, we've got a lot of other stuff other than our content that's coming out. We've got a blog that's lovingly
blog
written
indeed.
by Greg, who you met on this podcast.
You did. He was great.
And he was awesome. So I suggest highly that you take a look at that blog. It's blog.gamewisp.com.
What's it about this week? Do we know?
Yeah, it's about advertisements and product placement within Let's Plays and what that means for the legalness of it, based on what is happening over in the old British Empire there in England. Basically, they're cracking down on people doing advertisements within their YouTube videos they're not like revealing that they're being paid to endorse something.
Yeah.
And so that's a big deal in that most YouTubers rely on a lot of that like product placement to be a
check out these headphones I happen to be wearing that were given to me for free, but I might not tell you that.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's a matter of how do you approach that in a way that I don't know, makes sense from a government standpoint, so people know that they're not being like having the wool pulled over their eyes, but also like let YouTubers make money like that because that's how they have to make a living. It's a challenge. So we got a great blog post about that this week. We'd also love for you to join us for Morning Coffee, which is our morning stream. I know most of you probably stream and watch them in the evening times, but we do stream at 9 a.m. On twitch.tv/GameWisp.
It's what you do when you get to your cubicle and pretend to work in the morning.
That's right.
You just watch a quick little Twitch stream.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
You can watch us on the phone on your way in, on your commute.
On your commute. Even if you drive in yourself.
That's right.
Just watch it on your phone.
That's exactly right.
Don't do that. It's a bad idea.
Don't do that at all. That was a joke that
We do not condone acts of vehicular violence.
That's exactly right. So I guess with that said, we'll probably sign off for this week. I just took over the ship. I got 3,000 reals, whatever that is.
All right.
And put a frigate into my Kinway fleet. So that's a good way to end, I think.
Exciting.
All those words that don't mean anything.
Yeah. So we'll be back next week. We're back every day with Morning Coffee. We're working hard. The time is drawing nigh for the release of stuff to testers. So if you want to know that, let us know. info@gamewisp.com, Twitter @GameWisp. We'll be here. We'll listen to you.
That's right.
We'll do what you tell us.
And we love you.
Yes. All right. Thanks, guys.